The phone rang, and on the other end came his familiar voice. "Emily, Jason here. Sarah booked the wrong ticket, so I won't make it home in time to spend New Year's with you." Sarah was the new assistant he had just hired, and this was her first business trip with him. But this wasn't the first mistake she had made. I quietly replied, "Okay." Just before he hung up, I added, "This time, when you get back, change assistants." There was a long silence on the line before he finally left a cold remark, "We'll talk about it later." The ticket home had been changed to a slow Amtrak train instead of a flight. When he brought it up with me, his voice was restrained yet overflowing with anger. "Tell me, how can someone be this stupid?" On the video screen, his lips pressed tight, his face dark and clouded. Just looking at him, I knew how furious he was. But in truth, this wasn't the first time she had caused trouble. The other time, when preparing drinks for clients, she boldly swapped coffee and tea for bubble tea. Another time, at a business luncheon, she carelessly replaced the wine in his glass with plain tap water. She didn't understand, wine leaves traces on the glass, but water does not. In the corporate world, how many people aren't observant? Her so-called cleverness nearly turned him into a laughingstock. Several partnership deals almost fell apart because of her. In the end, I had to grit my teeth and drink glass after glass to smooth things over. He knew all of this. Yet he always downplayed it, even claiming that she had a kind of simplicity and straightforwardness that modern young people lacked. I had hinted more than once, directly or indirectly, that he should fire her. At the very least, he could transfer her to some unimportant department. But he always stalled, never making a decision. I just wanted to. Before I could speak, the sound of a young woman's aggrieved voice rose from outside the frame. "Plane tickets are so expensive during the holidays. I just wanted to save you some money." Hearing that, he laughed out of sheer anger, completely forgetting that I was still on the video call. He lowered the phone, strode over to her, and his voice grew sharper. "You made me sit on a train for over 30 hours just to save a few $100s? Do you think I need you to save money for me? Do you have any idea how much I could have earned in the time you wasted?" The camera shook, and the girl's figure entered the frame. He stood in front of her, looking down. But instead of being frightened or apologizing, she lifted her chin, her face flushed, meeting his gaze with stubborn defiance. Perhaps he was too angry, too clouded to realize just how close he was standing. If he just lowered his head, his lips could touch those full, red lips. He didn't even realize that this distance had already broken the 4-foot rule he always maintained with everyone. And even less did he realize, this was the first time he had allowed another woman, other than me, to cross that boundary, whether intentionally or not. They say when a man and a woman lock eyes for more than 8 seconds, it sparks an intense emotional reaction. I couldn't believe that because of some clumsy, naive girl, he would turn his back on me, the woman he had known for 7 years and been engaged to for 1. Yet, in the lens, the fire of anger in his eyes slowly faded, and his expression softened. That scene made my chest tighten. I lowered my gaze, turning the engagement ring on my finger, trying to ignore the strange emptiness in my heart. My voice came out soft. "Daniel, the day after tomorrow is our 1-year engagement anniversary." My words struck like thunder on a clear day, shattering the suffocating silence. Both of them froze, flustered, avoiding each other's eyes. He quickly stepped back, tugged at his collar, then hurried to raise the phone so only his face filled the screen again. "Emily, I'm sorry." His face carried genuine guilt, not a trace of pretense. But the fact that he had broken his promise, that was real too. I pressed my lips together and drew in a deep breath. Before I could say anything, that young, childish voice cut in again. "Let me explain." A pale hand suddenly appeared in the frame. Daniel frowned, sounding helpless. "Sarah, what are you trying to stir up again?" The woman beside him said nothing, only insistently reaching out, clearly determined not to give up until she got what she wanted. Before long, he sighed, shoved the phone into her hands almost carelessly. "Here. If you don't manage to cheer my fiancé up today, I'm docking your year-end bonus. Make sure you get it done. Her voice rang out, sweet and bright, like silver bells. But my heart plunged straight into the abyss. He had really, without hesitation, handed the phone to her. The camera shifted, and suddenly her delicate face filled the screen. My fingers clenched tight around the ring, then suddenly let go. Clink. The ring slipped off and hit the floor, its clear, piercing sound echoing like a crack in my chest. Emily, I'm sorry. I didn't know the day after tomorrow meant so much. I just thought plane tickets were too expensive during the holidays. The money I saved was almost equal to my family's monthly living expenses. She was still defending herself. But my mind was already drifting with the erratic spin of the ring, rolling farther and farther away. It kept spinning until it hit the wall and slowly came to a stop. I snapped back to myself, my gaze firm as I returned to the screen. Cutting her off, I said coldly, "Give the phone back to Daniel." The girl froze, then put on a pitiful face, hastily pleading. "Emily, please, I'm begging you. Forgive me this time. If you don't, the CEO will cut my paycheck." I didn't reply. I simply curved my lips into a polite smile and repeated, "Give the phone back to Daniel." Her eyes reddened, and with trembling hands, she finally handed the phone back. Daniel gave a slight shake of his head. When his eyes flickered toward her, there was a fleeting trace of something unreadable. But almost immediately, he restored his calm, turning back to me with a gaze filled with quiet tenderness. Deliberately, he stepped back to increase the distance. "Emily," he said evenly, "flights here are limited. Today's tickets are already sold out. Even if I take the train for over 30 hours, I still won't make it home in time to spend New Year's with you. And besides, I still have some work left unfinished. After the holidays, I'll make it up to you." His words were clear, measured. And me? I no longer had the strength to argue. I only gave a faint reply. "Fine." In the long, suffocating silence, he cleared his throat lightly, about to end the call. I hesitated for a moment, then spoke anyway. "This time, when you come back, change your assistant." He lifted his head slightly, eyes clouding over. It took him a long while before he finally lowered his gaze and answered in a low voice. "All right. We'll deal with it when I'm back." The screen went dark, though faint sounds still carried through. I heard his footsteps pause, then his weary yet gentle voice. "Don't worry, Sarah. I won't scold you, you little money-hungry kitten." Then her stubborn voice drifted into the receiver. "Daniel, do you even know how hard it is to make money? These corporations, every holiday they jack up the prices. Should we just let them exploit us? No way." Another call forced its way in. My face hardened as I decisively cut off the video connection. "Hello, it's Dad." Just that one greeting sent a chill down my spine. My jaw clenched, and my voice trembled with suppressed rage. "How did you get my number?" On the other end, that same disgusting voice I'd hated for years answered. "Of course, your wonderful fiancé gave it to me." "Huh. You're a lucky girl, marrying such a wealthy man. Your old man's about to enjoy the blessings too. Oh, by the way, this new year your precious fiancé will be coming back with you, right? Make sure he helps me pay off my debts." Those people kept coming to demand money. I'd told them countless times that my son-in-law was wealthy, yet they never believed me. This year, I'll make sure they see it with their own eyes. My fingertips gripped the phone so hard they turned white. Through the floor-to-ceiling window, my own pale reflection stared back at me, ice cold as ice. With a sharp motion, crash, the phone slammed against the floor, shattering into pieces. Silence filled the room. I closed my eyes, letting the storm of fury consume me. Only after a long while, when my ragged breath steadied, did I slowly walk to the corner, bend down, pick up the ring, wipe away the dust, and slide it back onto my finger. Just one phone call had drained every ounce of strength from me. I curled up in the corner of the sofa, arms wrapped tightly around myself. Outside, fireworks burst across the night sky. Looking up, I saw brilliant streams of color spilling into the quiet room. And yet, all that festivity had nothing to do with me. Because the man who once promised to watch fireworks with me, this year, he wasn't here. I thought to myself, sooner or later, I still needed to demand an answer, a clear explanation. The next day, luck was on my side. I bought a last-minute ticket to New York, arriving just in time for New Year's Eve, and I saw Daniel. And Sarah. It just so happened her hometown was the very place where they were working. The moment I landed, I used a new number to call him. But he didn't pick up. I'd forgotten, he never answered unknown numbers. When I tried again, the number was already blocked. With no other choice, I contacted the company's HR department, found Sarah's file, and from there tracked down her family address. Beneath the dazzling lights of New Year's Eve, I finally found Daniel, inside Sarah's home. Just a thin wall separated us, as the chimes of midnight rang out. I could see everything in the yard. I saw Sarah, cheeks flushed, rise on tiptoe to kiss his cheek. I saw his eyes flinch, his throat bob with a heavy swallow. I saw children running circles around them, laughing loudly. Uncle, Auntie, so embarrassing, so embarrassing. I saw the mocking glances of the elders as they cracked sunflower seeds, watching the two of them. So, Sarah finally brought her boyfriend home this year. Michael, you'd better cherish our girl. And just so you know, I've still got a whole list of suitors lined up waiting to meet her. The whole yard burst with laughter, overflowing with warmth and family cheer. Neither Daniel nor Sarah spoke up to deny it. Perhaps they didn't need to. Because this was already an unspoken truth. In fact, all the signs had been there from the very beginning. His special attention toward her had started the moment she first set foot in the company. That day, when he came home, the very first thing he told me about was Sarah. He said he had hired a female assistant. My hand froze above the bowl of soup, because he had never hired a female assistant before. He once told me that most broken relationships came from temptations nearby. He promised he would never put himself in a position to betray me. Yet at that moment, his mouth wouldn't stop talking about another woman. He said he hired her because she told him if she couldn't find a job, she'd have to go back home and get married. It reminded me of you, he said. You were once in that position too. I just wanted to help her once. She's nothing like you, clumsy, always making mistakes. I have to keep her close, otherwise she'll cause trouble. I said nothing, just set the soup bowl back into the pot. Too salty. Later on, though, Sarah gradually became the name he mentioned the most. Even if his words were full of complaints, she had already wormed her way between him and me. I never imagined things would go so far as the two of them meeting her family together. The yard was filled with laughter, while outside the gate I stood alone. If this were a movie, the next scene would be me lowering my head and quietly walking away. But why? Why should I retreat and hand them everything? My lips curved upward. I raised my hand and knocked hard against their gate. Bang, bang, bang. Someone came out to open it. Who are you looking for? My face showed no change, my eyes cut straight through the crowded yard. I'm looking for Daniel. The laughter and chatter died instantly. It was as if someone had pressed pause, silence blanketed the entire yard. All eyes turned toward me. Sarah's face stiffened in panic. As for Daniel, when his eyes fell on me, there wasn't surprise or joy. Instead, his brows furrowed reflexively. He stiffened, then hurriedly pushed through the crowd, quickly striding to stand in front of me. His finger brushed the bridge of his nose, his voice low, uneasy. Emily, why are you here? The curve on my lips didn't falter. I was ready to tell them all the truth about who I was. But Sarah rushed ahead of me. She darted in front, her back shielding me from the stares of everyone inside the yard. Her eyes brimmed with tears, her trembling hand clutching my arm tightly. This is our company's vice president, Emily Johnson, Director Johnson. She must have urgent business, that's why she came looking for our CEO, Daniel. Her voice was hoarse, frantic, tangled. And at the end, her gaze desperately sought an anchor, locking tight onto Daniel. Isn't that right, Daniel? I laughed out loud, without the slightest restraint. Brushing off her hand clutching mine, my fingers stung with pain. I rubbed them lightly, then lifted my gaze, following the direction of her eyes, toward Daniel. I wanted to know too. How would he answer? His eyes darted, evading. Only after a long pause did he finally glance at me and mutter vaguely. Emily, let's talk in private later. Today isn't about business. Laughter bubbled up again in the yard. Oh, I see how it is. Michael's been busy indeed. That's right, my son-in-law is a big executive at a major corporation. Sarah was crying and laughing at the same time, her eyes glowing as they lingered on him. Daniel, meanwhile, cast me a look, one that pleaded silently, don't make a scene. I'll give you a proper explanation later. I lowered my head, staring at the ring on my finger, a bitter smile curling at my lips. So, this business trip, he had already become someone else's boyfriend. Already turned into a son-in-law in someone else's mouth. I slipped off the engagement ring I had worn for a year and placed it right in front of him. Daniel, don't tell me you don't recognize this. He didn't take it. His pupils darkened, lips parting as though to speak. But Sarah was faster. She clutched his sleeve, her tear-filled eyes shaking as she gave the slightest shake of her head, her pleading look only more pitiful. Daniel glanced back at the people behind us, whispering and watching. After a moment's hesitation, he lowered his voice. Let's talk outside. He reached a hand as if to guide me out, but I stepped aside, dodging his touch. My eyes swept over the curious faces filling the yard before finally landing on Sarah. My lips curved upward, icy cold. What can't be said in front of everyone? Isn't this exactly the kind of thing we should make clear, out loud? Sarah's face drained of color. Her body trembled, and she collapsed to the ground. Startled, Daniel rushed to catch her shoulders, steadying her before turning back to me. His eyes brimmed with frost, filled only with blame. His teeth clenched, his voice a low growl. Do you really have to push people to the edge like this? I let out a contemptuous laugh, ready to retort. But he cut in quickly. Let's go outside. There's something I need to tell you. A few days ago, your father called me. The words crushed me like a blow. My fingers curled so tight that my nails dug into my palms. The pain was sharp, but nothing compared to the twisting agony inside my chest. I raised my head, eyes locked on him, disbelief flooding through me. He turned his face away, unable to meet my eyes. Each ragged breath of his felt like it was tearing my heart apart. He knew very well, between me and Thomas Grant, things had long been severed, fire and water never mixing. And yet today, just to force me to back down, he brought up that man to threaten me. In that instant, I finally understood, those closest to you know exactly where to drive the knife so it cuts down to the bone. My whole body suddenly felt drained of all strength. You win, I laughed bitterly at myself, turning to walk away. Behind me came the familiar sound of his footsteps following, and Sarah's panicked voice explaining. Mom, Dad, everyone, please go on and enjoy yourselves. My boyfriend just has something urgent to take care of. He'll be back soon to apologize. It was a small town, no nightlife. Especially not on New Year's Eve. I walked for a long time before finally finding a little bar with its lights still on. One glass of whiskey down my throat, and only then did my frozen body start to warm. Why were you in contact with Thomas Grant? The glass clinked softly as I set it down. He rubbed his temples, his tone edged with frustration. I don't know how he got my number. He calls constantly, sometimes with a reason, sometimes without. I figured, since he's your biological father, making it too tense wouldn't look good. So I just brushed it off. But a few days ago, he called asking for $500,000. It's not that I don't have the money, but I thought I should tell you. By the end, his voice carried open disdain, laid bare before me. Maybe it was the alcohol, but my face burned hot, shame flooding through me until I dropped my head against the table. Drops of liquor spilled, spreading across the wood, reflecting back the wreck of a face I could hardly bear to see. I shut my eyes, dry and aching, then tilted back another shot, downing it in one go. My voice cracked and hoarse. "Daniel, how many times have I told you, I cut ties with him long ago? You had 100 ways to end contact with him. Block his number. Call the police. At the very least, discuss it with me first. But you didn't. You kept the line open because deep down, you wanted to keep him as a card to control me. And today, you finally played it." His brows furrowed. "That's not what I thought. I only figured, after all, he's still your only blood relative. And with family, you don't hold grudges overnight." I laughed again, hollow. "Family? If I could choose again, I'd rather never be born at all than share even half a drop of that filthy blood. I only hope he dies." Dies, do you understand that? Daniel, who had always been used to my calm composure, probably had never seen me like this before. My crazed desperation froze him where he stood. Even the words that finally tumbled out of his mouth came broken, confused. "I'm sorry. You didn't know I hated him that much. Sarah once told you." Even though her father forced her into a marriage, she never hated him. "Blood ties, what's there that can't be forgiven?" That's what she said. "And you only hoped I'd be the same. That one day, like everyone else, I could enjoy the warmth of family. But you grew up in love, in security. How could you ever imagine what it feels like to loathe your own father? Even though I once ripped open my old scars, telling you the truth of the hatred between me and Thomas Grant, you never really listened. A few passing words, and you forgot them. And now, today, you want me to reconcile with that so-called fatherly bond?" I was 15. Thomas had already sunk deep into gambling. The loan shark stormed into our house. Without a word, they chopped off one of his fingers. He rolled on the floor, screaming in pain, still shouting, "No money, I don't have money." It wasn't a lie, we really didn't have a cent left. Next, they prepared to cut the second finger. I curled up in the corner, blood boiling in my veins. And all I felt was rage that the blade didn't just slit his throat and end it once and for all. He groveled, rolling around, begging without end. "Please, Jack, please, give me a few more days." The man who started arrogantly at home, now on his knees, trembling. My lips twitched upward. I savored his humiliation, the bitter satisfaction rising from the depths of my heart. Then suddenly, his venomous eyes cut toward me. "Jack, I've got it. Here's my daughter. Do whatever you want with her. Call it interest on the debt." The fire in my blood froze into ice. The very man I had wished dead now wished to trade me for cash. Father and daughter, yes, we were truly bound by the same filthy bloodline. I lowered my head into silence. My mother crushed me in her arms, covering my eyes and ears, shielding me from more. She wept as though her heart was tearing apart. "Thomas Grant, you're not human. You wretched man, you want me to watch you die?" His voice pierced through my mother's palms, each word low, vicious, but sharp as a knife. Jack spat on the ground, but his eyes landed on me. "She's too young. Is she even of age? Don't make me commit a crime. She's of age, of age. She just turned 18 this year. Don't believe me? Check her ID." But that ID, he had falsified it himself, adding 3 years so I could enter school early, save him tuition. My mother's tears streamed endlessly, as she covered my face with both hands. "Jack, he's lying. My daughter's only 15, just 15. Leaning against her chest, I felt nothing. Not even fear. Only a faint, bitter irony, that at last, she had found the courage to resist, if only once. But then, her next words turned my whole body to ice. Jack, look at me. I'll do it. The last words I heard were a whisper in my ear. Emily, run. Run as far as you can. Then a heavy blow knocked me out. When I woke up, the house was silent, empty. Frantically, I tore through every corner, but my mother was nowhere to be found. Outside, chaos echoed. I dragged myself to the window and looked down. What met my eyes was a sea of red. My mother lay motionless in the center of that pool of blood. The ambulance came, then left. When she returned to me, it was only as a thin black and white photograph. I held the picture in my arms, but not a single tear fell. Only on one rainy night did I smash Thomas Grant's skull, take the last money my mother had hidden, and disappear into the crowd. The first year away from home, I ran, I hid. With no experience, I could only take odd jobs, paid by the day. Luckily, Thomas had falsified my age. I was 18, just enough not to be considered child labor. Otherwise, I wouldn't even have had the right to survive. The second year, I met Daniel. He was 22 then. At a restaurant, I spilled a tray of food, staining a guest's shoes. He demanded $3,000 in compensation, or else I'd have to kneel and lick them clean. I kept my head down in silence, calculating the odds of beating him up and running. But then Daniel appeared. He paid the money for me. At that moment, I thought he was a fool. But when he asked me if I wanted to go with him, I nodded. I entered the Thompson group, starting from handing out flyers, and slowly, step by step, I stood by his side. The 5th year away from home, also the first year Daniel and I officially became a couple, Thomas Grant came looking for me again. I was truly 20 then, still young. The first time I saw him again, my hands trembled. But quickly, I steadied myself. Before Daniel could even speak, I brushed it off, reducing everything to a dull piece of past. That 25-year-old young man looked at me not with contempt, but with sorrow. Do you need my help? I lifted my chin, smiled faintly, and shook my head. That pure-hearted boy shouldn't be dragged into my swamp. But because of him, I found the courage to face Thomas Grant on my own. $200,000, for 20 years of youth imprisoned. In exchange, I bought myself the rest of my life in freedom. I signed the documents, even hired a lawyer, drafted agreements, went through every legal procedure. From that day forward, Thomas Grant and I were severed completely. When the haze of alcohol blurred my memories at 25, all I saw was the man sitting before me now, his eyes full of compassion, softening my heart. I wanted to give in. After all, this was the man I had loved for 7 years. I reached out, wanting to touch his brow, wanting to say, "Daniel, let's forget this time. Let's go back to the way we were." But before my hand could reach him, he suddenly stood up, brows furrowed tight, eyes fixed sharply out the window. My hand clutched at empty air, and clarity cut through me in silence. I followed his gaze. It was Sarah. Outside, snow was falling thick and white. She stood alone in the middle of the street, without even a coat, face pale, body trembling. I lowered my head and gave a bitter smile. So he wasn't the Daniel I had loved at 25. That look of sorrow in his eyes had never belonged to me. He lifted a foot to step forward. Instinct made me grab his wrist. "Daniel, if you walk out that door tonight, then we're finished." He frowned, pried my hand off with force. "I'm only going to say a few words to her. I'll be right back." In that struggle, his wrist slipped free, and I caught sight of it, a red string. Hanging from it, a tiny scarlet carp charm. Both he and I froze. Fish. Sarah. Sarah's name. He had never worn anything before. Not even our engagement ring. He had worn it only for a single day, then removed it. So it wasn't that he wasn't used to jewelry. It was that the giver had been the wrong person. I came to myself, letting go with calm detachment. His eyes lingered on that small charm too, flashing with a trace of unease. He quickly reached out, trying to catch my hand again. "It's not what you think. It's just a little trinket. Her family prepared them for everyone for New Year's. I pulled back, leaned against the table, smiling through tears. Family? Who, her and you? He stepped forward, wanting to explain, but his eyes betrayed him. Drifting back toward the window, where Sarah still shivered in the snow. I stepped back, quickly wiping away the tear at my eye. Daniel, get out. He hesitated for 3 seconds, then turned and left. Emily, Sarah's health isn't good. If she keeps standing in the cold, something will happen. I'll take her home first, then come back and explain. Outside, he strode toward her, reaching to guide her back. But Sarah shook him off, turned, and walked straight into the restaurant instead, standing right beside me. Daniel had no choice but to follow silently. Her face was full of guilt, her voice trembling. Emily, I didn't expect the two of you to fight because of me. Please, let me explain for Mr. Thompson. It's all my fault. My parents keep forcing me into blind dates every holiday. I don't want to marry so soon, so I begged Mr. Thompson to pretend to be my boyfriend. Emily, just pity me this once. Lend him to me for tonight, so I can fool my family. Tomorrow, I'll return him to you. Her eyes shone, wet but daring, her voice quivering with false humility. I heard, when you were 15, you were also forced into an arranged match. So I thought, surely you'd understand what this feels like. Her brows arched ever so slightly, and in the corners of her eyes flickered a trace of arrogance, mocking, almost proud. But her last words struck right at the bleeding scar in my heart. My fingers gripped the edge of the table so tightly my knuckles turned white. Lifting my gaze to Daniel, my voice came out calm, so calm it was chilling. You told her about me. His face paled, his voice faltered. I only let it slip, just one joke, that once, you two were forced into a marriage. Of course. A so-called secret only stays safe when you keep it to yourself. I shot to my feet, replaying in my mind the word sympathy she had just used, and step by step I walked straight up to Sarah. With all my strength, I swung and slapped her across the face. My palm burned, my fingers stung. I rubbed them lightly, then smiled sweetly. This is what sympathy feels like. Do you understand now? The crack of the slap was swallowed by the fireworks outside. Half her face reddened instantly, swelling, impossible to hide. Her voice quivered, pitiful. Why must you go after someone who already has a family? Or did you really think no one could see through your intentions? I flicked my hand in disgust, not bothering to give her another glance. Daniel rushed to hold Sarah, murmuring softly to soothe her. Then his face darkened as he stepped forward, shielding her from me. Emily, you've gone too far. Sarah already explained, she and I are just pretending for now, only helping her out. What you once suffered, she's going through the same. Why can't you show compassion? After hearing about your past, she even pitied you, told me I should help you reconcile with your father. After all, blood is blood, you can't hate forever. You're so harsh, so unreasonable. Maybe what I think about it, what happened back then wasn't entirely your father's fault. I looked at my hand, freshly wiped clean, and sighed. I had forgotten one. My hand wasn't done yet. I swung again, aiming for Daniel's face. But my reach wasn't enough. The slap landed at his neck, my nails dragging down and leaving 2 bloody scratches. His brow twitched violently, his tongue pressed against the inside of his cheek where the pain burned, his face turning pale, fury blazing in his eyes. But I acted as if I saw nothing. I turned away, sat down, and poured myself another glass of liquor. Daniel, go. When you get back, let's break off the engagement. His pupils shrank, his eyes icy cold. Emily, don't be absurd. Ending an engagement over something so small? Did you forget, your father is still waiting for me to spend New Year's with him? The glass in my hand I hurled straight at his face. Too bad, he dodged in time. The glass shattered, shards scattering. Get out. I yanked off the engagement ring, flung it at him. Take what belongs to you. and never appear before me again. The ring spun through the air, only to be caught neatly in Daniel's hand. In an instant, his expression hardened. He tossed the ring straight out the door. "Emily, don't regret this." Then he took Sarah and walked away. And me, I staggered straight to the hotel I had booked. Inside the room, I crawled under the blanket, wrapping myself tight. I lay there, but sleep never came. Outside the window, snow still fell in thick white sheets. Quietly, I let the last traces of feeling I had for Daniel fade away with the snow that night. I don't know how much time passed before my phone buzzed, a friend request. I squinted at the familiar number. If I wasn't mistaken, it was Sarah's. I clicked accept, and almost immediately, messages flooded in, voice notes and videos. Clips of Daniel casually greeting her relatives. Clips of the two of them being teased to act like lovers in front of everyone. Clips of her leading him around, introducing him to family. Even clips of them being arranged to share the same room, the same bed. Her message followed. "I knew this number had to be yours. On Daniel's phone I saw your missed calls, 3 of them, and he ignored every single one. I wanted to thank you. Thank you for giving him up to me. Emily, men don't like strong women like you. They want someone like me, soft, just right. So what if you're his fiancé? As long as I want him, even if you two get married, I can still take him away." Clever Sarah. She figured out those missed calls came from my new number. But how foolish of her. To hand me the evidence herself. That slap I gave her earlier hadn't been enough. And now she placed another opportunity right into my hands. Before she could recall the messages, I saved everything. Every voice note converted into text. Screenshots neatly archived, backed up twice. Sure enough, she started retracting them one by one. But I just stared at the evidence sitting safely in my gallery, lips curling into a faint smile. The bells of midnight rang out. I sat cross-legged on the bed, with no intention of sleeping. Thinking it through, now was the perfect time to send an early New Year's greeting to every shareholder at Thompson Group. I bundled together my resignation letter, the engagement annulment, and all the incriminating messages and videos. Then I sent the entire package to everyone in the company. From directors and shareholders to security guards and janitors, no one was spared. I even announced withdrawal from every project under my management. The inbox exploded instantly. "Emily, what happened? The company can't run without you. Emily, don't be reckless. Break off the engagement if you must, but don't quit. Boss, where are you going? Let me come with you." The next morning, I bought a ticket back to New Haven. Only then did I realize, holiday tickets weren't nearly as hard to buy as people claimed. As long as your heart is set, nothing can truly stop you. Before I left, I even had someone edit together the audio Sarah had sent me. Paid the village radio station well, and asked them to broadcast it on loop, morning, noon, and night. I made sure the entire town, not a single soul left out, heard Sarah's New Year greetings. Those WeChat messages? I had them printed into giant posters, made into banners, and asked the aunties in the village to hang them everywhere, right in the most visible spots. I was certain Sarah's New Year would be unforgettable. The moment my plane landed, my phone lit up with dozens of missed calls and countless messages. Most of them were from Daniel. "Emily, you've gone too far. After this, how will Sarah face anyone? Emily, do you really mean it? You left Thompson Group, where will you go now? The company's about to go public, and leaving now is betrayal. Emily, where are you? There's nothing between me and Sarah. If you don't like her, I'll listen to you, I'll transfer her somewhere else. Just stop making a scene, okay?" He was starting to realize, this time I was truly determined. I narrowed my eyes, skimmed over the messages, and muttered one word, pathetic. Then I blocked him, deleted everything. That very night, I hired movers to clear out everything from Daniel's house. I heard later that in the days after, he nearly went mad searching for me. When the holiday ended, I went early to the office to avoid him, to complete my resignation papers. But as I stepped out of the building, he was already waiting at the door. Project stalled, the company in chaos, and him, compared to before, clearly worn down. The moment he saw me, his eyes reddened. "Emily, after all these years together, do you really mean to end it? Look, the engagement rings. I found them, still intact." He carefully held out the 2 rings, as if presenting an heirloom treasure. "I know I was wrong. I've already fired Sarah. Can't we go back to how we were?" I looked at him, then smiled faintly. "Daniel, since when have you ever seen me go back to grazing old grass?" His face blanched instantly. His steps faltered, staggering backward. His trembling hand dropped, the ring slipped, rolled away behind him. He scrambled to pick it up. And I turned, walking away without once looking back. The next day, after my resignation, I received an invitation from Thompson Group's biggest rival. Same position, double the salary. The following morning, I started the job, bringing along the same trusted team I'd built over the years. New company, old colleagues. Everything clicked into place. I worked with ease, like a fish returned to water. I later heard that at Thompson Group, every project I had led collapsed in succession. More than half the partners withdrew. The much-hyped IPO plan became a laughingstock. On the day I stood to acquire Thompson Group, Daniel looked surprisingly calm. It was as if he had known all along that the one to come for him would be me. "Emily," he said, "if that day I had made it back in time, would things have ended differently?" I stood by the window, gazing out at the Hudson River churning endlessly in the distance, and whispered, "Yes." Back then, on February 14th, we would have gone to register our marriage. And then flown to Santorini for our honeymoon. Perhaps, a year later, there would have even been a little daughter born. The thought made my eyes sting. I blinked and turned, looking at his face still lost in sweet illusions. "But Daniel, all of it, you destroyed with your own hands." The smile froze on his lips, his eyes shattered into nothing but fragments of despair. When the acquisition was finalized, I turned decisively and walked away. Just as I crossed the threshold, his voice called out after me, "Emily, you will be happy. From now on, nothing and no one will ever stand in the way of your happiness again." I didn't look back. I simply raised my right hand, the ring glinting there. Wherever Emily Johnson is, that is where happiness lives. Epilogue. On the day I got married, a serious accident shook the city. They said the victim was a father, rushing to his daughter's wedding. The driver who struck him was a man still hopelessly in love, heading to the wedding of his former lover. The father died instantly at the scene. The car, without slowing, veered off the bridge and into the river. Both man and vehicle were swallowed whole. I only received the news the next day. Because I knew them both. One was Thomas Grant. The other was Daniel. Later, my husband told me the truth behind it. Thomas had planned to crash the wedding, to force me once again for money. But Daniel had known all along. And chose to end it at the root. Hearing the whole story, I merely brushed away the tear that slipped down the corner of my eye, let out a faint sigh. Unlucky.